We recently sailed on Celebrity Cruise Line's The Silhouette on a 4-night Caribbean itinerary with only one stop, which was Cozumel, Mexico. And here's how it went. Celebrity Cruise Lines is owned by the Royal Caribbean Cruise Group and has 16 ships within their fleet, and 3 of those ships set sail all year round in the Galapagos Islands. Our ship on this 4-night sailing was the Celebrity Silhouette, and this was built back in 2011 and was revolutionized or refurbished in 2020. The ship is considered a medium-sized cruise ship that weighs in at about 122 gross tons and can hold 2,902 passengers per double occupancy. And most of the time you're never going to see that, but it can happen. The ship itself has 1,451 rooms. 85% of those are balconies, 10% are inside staterooms, and only 5% are ocean view. Now, while this video is our own opinion, kind of our review of Celebrity Cruises, because it is the first cruise that we have taken with Celebrity, we have been on 16 total cruises, so we know a little thing about cruising. But just remember to take this entire video with just a grain of salt, right? This is just our own opinion from our point of view on our first sailing with Celebrity. Now, if you've been a loyal Celebrity cruiser, you might find this video to be opposite of what you think. You might agree with some of it. But just remember that this is only our opinion and our point of view from this one single cruise. And as I judge everything in life, everything you should do at least twice, if not 3 times, just to really make sure that you give it a fair choice. A fair choice? A fair chance. Now, we booked this cruise on the Celebrity Silhouette last minute, like maybe 2 weeks before the cruise actually set sail, because we had an opening in our schedule and this cruise just happened to fit within that window. And who doesn't love taking a nice relaxing cruise? And we were excited to try something new and different because in the past we've only done Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, and Disney. Celebrity Cruise Line as a whole does seem to be in this kind of rebranding phase of who they are in order to compete with the rest of the industry, mainly Norwegian Cruise Line, and I think even a little bit of Virgin. Norwegian has slowly started to push their ships more towards this luxury-esque feel, just on the cusp though of staying underneath that price point. And Celebrity, I think in a lot of ways, is trying to do the same thing and just maybe be over the price point of a luxury cruise. The new slogan for Celebrity Cruise Lines is a relaxed luxury resort at sea. And while that may be true for the newer ships that are coming out in the near future, this ship just didn't quite have that feel to us that it was a relaxed luxury resort at sea. Now, in general, it did feel luxurious to us in a few different areas. I mean, this is a ship in a cruise line that has always been a luxury or premium cruise line. And in some ways, it even felt like a more adult version of maybe a Disney Fantasy or the Disney Dream. But it just kind of missed it on a few aspects for us. Now, as far as embarkation goes, this, I think for me, is a great kind of judge of the way the rest of your cruise is going to go for the week or however long the sailing is. And for us, embarkation was so smooth. It was amazing, it was great, and by far was one of the best experiences that we have ever had while sailing. Upon arriving at the port, there were really almost no lines, and even when we got in, security was very quick and easy. And the physical check-in process, which everybody has to go through, there were multiple points of check-in, and there just weren't any long lines. I mean, everything was proceeding as planned and as usual, and very, very smooth. Now, once we stepped onto the ship, that is where we really started to see this luxury feel, and that is in the main atrium area. I mean, it is a beautiful place. It's stunning. It looks great. It has this awesome kind of multi-level open design, which does actually have a few downsides to it, but I'll mention that more later on in the video. Taylor and I are also travel agents who co-own a travel agency, and with that being said, we make sure to tell all of our clients that when you embark on your ship, you should always take the time to really tour the ship and try to see it and get to know it and understand where things are at, where the front of the ship is, where the back of the ship is, what side is starboard side, what side is port side, because all of those things will really just help your cruise later on throughout the week. Now for us, we did tour almost the entire ship on embarkation day. And what we found really surprising was that there were a few restaurants that were completely closed off to guests, and a lot of restaurants where you had to pay a premium to go in and eat, and there were very few that were actually included with your cruise fare. Now, the Silhouette does have a lot of restaurants to choose from, and it's not surprising to see restaurants on a cruise ship charging a premium, but what is always kind of surprising to us is to only find that there's one main dining room in one buffet location that is available for passengers to choose from that doesn't cost anything extra. And coming from other cruise lines like Disney, Norwegian, and even Royal Caribbean, who offer more than just one location, many times that has something included, is just really kind of shocking. And for most of those people who are Norwegian or Royal Caribbean or even Disney fans looking to maybe step up into a luxury sailing, you might be disappointed to find that your only option will be the main dining room and the buffet if you don't want to spend anything extra on food throughout the rest of your cruise. Now, on embarkation day, we did have lunch in the Grande Cuvée, which is the main dining room, and this lunch was specifically for concierge guests, which was also a first for us in general of sailing. Now, I had mentioned earlier in the video that the ship as a whole had gone under a revolution back in 2020, which was just really a refurbishment of the ship itself. And it seemed like they maybe refurbished everything except for the main dining room, which was super, super red. It was a color that just kind of like seems to be from like maybe the late 2000s. And they just, for whatever reason, maybe didn't turn it around. I don't know, but it was really, really red. Moving into dining from this cruise, one of the most common negative reviews that Celebrity receives is the food on the ship. For being a premium or luxury cruise line, you would think that the food in the main dining room should reflect that by any means necessary, as far as the options that there are to choose from and the way that the food is presented on the plate. And for our lunch that we had that was included with this in the main dining room, we just found the food to just not really be all that great. And I mean, it's lunch and you know, maybe there's a quick turnover or whatever as far as passengers and maybe staff within the ship. So maybe lunch is a little bit hectic. But we even found this at dinner where the food just didn't really seem to be that premium style feel or a luxury type of feel. It felt just like maybe we were on Norwegian or Royal Caribbean or even one of the Disney ships. And I think that it is a fair assumption that if you're going to be on a premium cruise line, the food options each night should be reflective upon that and not really kind of just the same old every single night. Now, we did just come off of Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas at the end of January, which was a few weeks before we took this cruise in February. And that may have altered maybe our opinion slightly because Royal Caribbean has just redone almost all of the menus and tastings on their ships. But still, you're on a premium cruise line, and so the food should reflect that as being premium. Now, however, contrary to the main dining room, we found that the buffet on board was really, really great. And if you don't really care for the food in the main dining room, you can always go to the buffet and eat dinner as well. And so for lunch and dinner and even breakfast, we found that the food options were really great, a lot of variety. And I think one thing that kind of surprised us, but we found that was really cool, was that they have a menu or a map outside of the restaurant that actually shows you all of the different ethnicities and food options that are throughout the buffet for you to choose from. Now, I will say that basically I looked at the map and thought, oh, this stuff looks great, and then walked inside and totally did not really remember where anything was at. And so I still walked around, but I still think that that's a really great option to at least give you an idea of what you can expect. Now, as far as the food quality goes, I think that the food quality was really good compared to many other cruise lines. And I love that they have the pizza station up there going all day long, and it is always freshly made pizza right there in front of your eyes. Now, where we might find that really premium kind of offering food is when you go to specialty dining. And we used to do a lot of dining reviews on this channel, and we don't really do them all that much anymore. But on occasion when we are on a cruise and we're eating at some place for the very first time, we will do a dining review to kind of show you what it's like inside of that specialty restaurant. And you can see that in the description up here maybe, or over here. It's in one of these, or maybe even in the description below of our dining review for Muranos. And I encourage you to go and watch that, and you might get a real kind of idea or kind of view of what your food should be like, I think, in the main dining room as well. Now, this sailing was the first time that we have sailed in concierge. And whether you call it a room or a cabin, it really doesn't matter. It's your room for the length of time that you're there. And while we really enjoyed the perks that we got to experience as part of a concierge guest, we didn't really take full advantage of them. And it still felt maybe to be a little bit lacking. So If you're on, let's say, a Disney cruise, concierge guests are at the top of the list of kind of the sailing, right? Now in Celebrity, you have kind of the general public, let's say, you have concierge, and then you have these suites. Suites actually get the most advantage of anybody on the ship. They have private restaurants. The one big advantage that I think that we got, which people were really surprised about, was that we had champagne every day of the sailing. And a lot of people felt like that was kind of a mistake, that you're only supposed to get it as a welcome bottle on the first day of the cruise. But as I mentioned before, and I checked before filming this video on our charges for our stateroom, we never received any additional charges for the bottles of champagne that we ordered the day after we set sail. Now, we never ordered more than 1 bottle per day, but again, I think that this is something that a lot of people, if you're staying in concierge, are missing. So make sure that when you're in concierge, you get that bottle every day, because it does seem to be included. And this is even better. If you don't have a drink package, then at least you get this free bottle of champagne that you can kind of enjoy throughout the day on your sailing. And think about this, that for continental breakfast that you can order and have delivered to the room, which is included, you can also make yourself a little cocktail with that champagne and the orange juice that gets delivered. Now, one thing that I was really excited for Taylor, but we never took advantage of it, was there was supposedly a pillow menu, which would give you the option to choose from like 5 different types of pillows, and you could figure out which one that you really liked. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have a menu in our room, and we actually had to call the stateroom attendant to even look at that. And we never actually called the stateroom attendant, so we never actually got to take advantage of it, and we never got to see what the other pillows were. But you might be interested to know that the pillow that we did have on the bed, Taylor looked at the tags and ended up ordering one for herself because she liked them so much. We were also surprised by the sailing that there was no official sail away party. Even on Norwegian or Royal Caribbean, and especially Disney, there's always some type of sail away party or gathering going on to celebrate you setting sail from port and getting away from the general public for the next several days. But there wasn't one on this cruise. And a huge advantage, again, I think, of having champagne in your room is that we were able to kind of have just our own little private time, kind of celebration, so to speak, sail away party, right on our veranda with our champagne, which I thought was just really cool. And I thought it was really kind of special for us just to have this moment where we could just kind of hang out and watch us sail away out of Miami. Now, in addition to the concierge kind of feel, it was really nice that they offer you the hors d'oeuvres option to be delivered to your room every day at no additional charge. But I really felt like this was lacking. It seemed like they just walked up to the buffet, kind of picked a few things off, put them on the plate in a sophisticated manner, and brought them to the room. There wasn't really like any option to choose from anything, and I think it would be a lot better for concierge guests to have maybe a private area where you could just go and pick some hors d'oeuvres. Now, I think something that's really great for concierge guests that we didn't really take advantage of ourselves because we were just doing other things is that they do have special events and activities for concierge guests, and this is also, goes for suites and everybody above. But with that being said, we didn't take advantage of that because some of the activities just weren't really what we were interested in, or we just didn't really pay attention to when they were going on. We spent a lot of time in the spa, in the thermal suites, which I'll talk more here in a minute, but just know that there are some other advantages that you can take advantage of as a concierge guest to make it more worth your while, as far as paying a little bit more of a premium when it comes to choosing that above just a regular standard stateroom. Looking at concierge as a whole as we begin to wrap up this chapter of the video, because we will definitely set sail on Celebrity once again in the future, I don't think that I would purchase concierge again. Actually, I would rather probably take that money and put it maybe towards an excursion or maybe even the drink package on board. There just weren't really enough, I think, advantages for me to justify paying that much in the future. But if you have sailed on Celebrity before and you've done concierge many times, or maybe you're looking to try it or whatever, let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on concierge, and maybe I'm missing something. I don't know, but let us know, because we would love to hear what your thoughts are on staying in concierge as a whole. Now, what really surprised us the most were the lack of activities, it felt like, on Celebrity Cruise Line. And on the Silhouette more specifically, because that was the ship that we were on. And with that being said, there were plenty of events as far as shopping goes, and again, the casino games, you could get free drinks at certain stuff. But other than that, most of the things that were advertised on the app, which is where you'll find what activities are going on throughout the day, was mostly kind of live musicians playing around the ship. And for us, Taylor and I, we do really like doing game shows and playing trivia. And there were game shows, don't get me wrong, but most of those game shows actually occurred only once and during the late time dining. Now, on most other cruise lines, that doesn't actually happen. They actually have those late night games going after the late night seating so that people can really take advantage of that stuff and have fun. And we just didn't really get to do that because of the time of our dining seating, which was at 8:45. But with that being said, Taylor and I are kind of more active as far as when it comes to doing stuff on a cruise ship. We don't necessarily always like to be sitting still, reading a book, or just kind of listening to live music. We like to be a little bit on the go. And so that's why we typically prefer to be on ships that have a lot more port-heavy days rather than sea days. But again, this cruise kind of fit our schedule, and so we just went to try it. And it still is a great ship, and it was a great sailing. Just, you know, beggars can't be choosers, right? When it comes to kind of last minute stuff. Now, the spa area is a place where Taylor and I tend to spend a lot of time. And we don't really do a lot of like massages or other things like nail stuff, or whatever that is, that Taylor does. What we do tend to spend a lot of time in is the thermal suites. Now, of all the thermal suites that we have experienced across the cruise lines, Norwegian tends to be our favorite. They have very large thermal suites with a lot of different things to choose from. And then there's probably Disney Fantasy, which is the rainforest room and has just this kind of really nice feel and atmosphere inside of their thermal suite. Now, in the future, we will not book the Persian Garden again because it just didn't actually seem to be worth the money. Most all thermal suites should have some type of hot tile or warm tile beds or chairs that you can sit in, at least a couple of these kind of scented aromatic showers, a sauna, a dry sauna, and in some cases, like here on the Persian Gardens, it had an aromatic kind of therapy room, so to speak. It wasn't really like a hot room. It really just kind of had this like aroma to it that you could go in and, you know, smell. Now, it didn't have a hot tub, and it was kind of small for the size of the ship, but as a whole, it felt like maybe they oversold it. If you weren't in there first thing in the morning when it first opened up, you probably weren't going to have a hot tile chair to sit in. And then to go into the sauna, it was usually pretty crowded. And the showers in there just really only had one setting, so it just wasn't really like all that great. And again, for being a premium or luxury cruise line, as it's being sold as this relaxed luxury at sea, I felt like the Persian Garden had a lot to improve on as far as being something that is a step up from, let's say, Royal Caribbean and Disney and Norwegian. Now for us, it was $234 for the two of us for the week, or well, for the 4 nights, or $117 per person. And so it is kind of expensive, but here's the thing. Especially on a cruise where there's a lot of port days and you're out and about and you're like walking around doing all this stuff, exploring, it's really nice to be able to come back and have this kind of like tranquil, peaceful place to hang out in and relax and kind of unwind from the day to get you ready for the next day. And that's really why we always choose the thermal suites, because it's this nice place where you can just really just stop and relax and have this kind of moment of peace to just unwind from everything else. Now, when it comes to lounges and hangout areas on the Celebrity Silhouette, they do actually have quite a bit to choose from. And some of these areas have a bar, some of them don't have a bar at all, some of them pipe in music throughout the day. But really for us, we found that the one place that we really enjoyed, even though we didn't spend that much time in it, was the Skyview Lounge. And this is kind of up towards the top of the ship, up at the front, where you have these windows that go the entire way around the lounge, floor to ceiling. They have chairs that are out in front of it, and you can kind of just sit and watch as you're sailing through the ocean. And the rest of the lounge itself is open. So there's a bar in there, and there's plenty of other seating. They do activities and games in there as well. And I thought that this would be a really great place for us to film or record our podcast in. But and by the time that we went to go do the podcast, they were already doing games and stuff in there. They had music piping into there. And it was really loud and tough to do. And so we started to kind of try to find a different place to go to. And so we went down to what's called the Hangout, which has no bar or anything like that. It's just some seats in there. You can read a book if you want to, just lounge and relax, maybe have a quiet conversation. What we found surprising, and this kind of goes back to that open concept within the atrium, the hangout is off of the elevator shaft, which is also part of the open concept. When they start playing music down there, all of that music rises up and into the hangout, so it kind of becomes a little distracting. And just above the hangout is the library. The library is also open, so if you want to read a book and you want it to be quiet, it doesn't really make sense because you're just hearing whatever kind of music that they're playing downstairs. So thinking about this cruise as a whole for us, the first time on Celebrity, our first time in Concierge, and just our first time experiencing the brand as a whole, you know, we were definitely surprised by a lot of things and not so much surprised by other stuff because we've been on so many cruises, but we'll definitely try this again in the future. And if you've done a cruise before, you didn't like it because maybe service or something else was wrong or bad, I would suggest that you just try to give it another chance. But I will say that for this being a premium or luxury cruise line, I think it still had a lot to be desired as far as feeling premium and luxurious. I don't know, maybe we need to get like on a real premium ship where they like make you dress up in like ball gown attire and different things like that. I don't know. I wouldn't be for that. Taylor would love that. I would not. But it still is a great cruise line. It still is a great ship. And we are excited to travel with them in the future. You know, we're looking at maybe doing an Alaskan cruise on Celebrity, or even maybe doing something that's a longer itinerary in the near future. So let us know if you have sailed on Celebrity before, if you enjoy it, if you don't enjoy it. Why do you like it? Why don't you like it? You know, what are your complaints and what are your positives about Celebrity Cruise Line? We would love to know for our future cruising purposes, and we'll see you all in the next one.